we're being recorded. I don't really have too many remarks. I hope everyone enjoyed the snow this morning.
Quite a bit.
We're going to have a brief meeting, I believe, after this on workforce. And with that, I'll ask if anyone if everyone has read the minutes to the January 31st meeting.
There's one correction.
And if so, could I get a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
is the correction.
The correction was, Brian was with us in
Oh.
person rather than out here or online.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Sure.
We have our 2022 mission statement.
Yes. It's the measurements, so it's what you've done in 2022.
Yes, yes.
2023 is
The performance measurements to approve. They're in here, right?
yes.
Two. Does anybody want to go through them? Have you read them?
Awful lot of performance there.
Yes, there is.
I'm like,
Okay,
that's pretty amazing. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I'd probably send it back and say it was a run-on sentence, but.
Committee reports, treasurer's report.
Good morning. We are working with the auditors to complete their report for us. They did advise me yesterday that because of what they considered excessive required journal entries because of some of the complex transactions we had, particularly with the real estate transaction with the county, that they are going to, in the management letter, tell us that we need to tighten that up. I think you're aware that I've been working with a firm in Rhinebeck, Zolch Tax Service. They have a couple of experts in QuickBooks who are helping Kat and I work through this because last year, because of having to do a single audit, UHY indicated they could no longer give us day-to-day advice on our books because they have to be reviewing. You know, I think when we look at where we are, I'm not going to argue with them like I did last year over you know, one issue that we had where we didn't post something, we posted it in a suspense account rather than where it should have been in June. But I do think it's indicative of the fact that you know, as we grow and do more work, that we need to be a more closer review on a monthly basis and make the corrections then, rather than leave them for the accountants. But they were very pleased overall. And they did say that we brought most of these entries to their attention at the startup meeting so that they knew they were coming, but they say many clients don't do that. As a result, we don't have the balance sheet because the balance sheet will not reflect the adjustments. So we'll have the balance sheet next week and we'll send it out. And Tara, get that to you and perhaps you and I and Brian could have a review of it before the finance committee meeting. But you know, I think right now they say we're going to show a loss of $17,000, and that's after they deducted the $200,000 of forgiveness of indebtedness. So you know, I think you know, we're not for profit. You're supposed to run it at the quick of your fingernails.
Are they keeping a list of all the correcting journal entries that they're referencing in
Yes.
the management letter?
Yes, and also the ones that I pointed out. So we're not going to, I have a draft of that to review with Zolch, but we're not going to, Kat and I decided we are not going to look at it internally until they complete it. So we're not making some and missing others. We're going to do all the journal entries at once, but I have that today. I get to. So looking at the income statement, we had $99,000 of income. We're $7,500 over on administrative revenue because SEC 7, the City of Hudson IDA project closed. and it was a $7.5 million project. And our contract with them is a base fee plus 1% of the IDA fee. I'm sorry, 10% of what they get as an IDA fee, which becomes 1% of the project cost, up to $10,000. So we are, we did not budget for that, so that will give us a little bit of a starting bump in the beginning of the year. I'm pleased to say that and Martha and I were excited to see that our loan interest income, we budgeted $70,000 for the year, and it looks like we're going to be consistently over that. This isn't entirely representative, because what we did do is, assuming that we were doing loans, we upped it each quarter. So I think we had 6,000 for the first quarter, 7,500, 7,000 for the second quarter, because there's more loans on the street, you're bringing in more interest. But so this is a really good sign. Our membership, this is before the accountants and I worked on an adjustment that will up the dollar amount for membership, because the way they book it, if you joined in October of last year, we get 9 months of that revenue in this year. So they do it on you're a member on a calendar basis based on the date you join, for accounting purposes, not for annual meeting purposes. But we are up. I do have a handful of board members who I'll just send a quick email to remind you to look at your due schedule, so that by the annual meeting you are a duly authorized member. And we have various levels. We're not looking for the highest level of our board members.
Sure we are.
Well, you're already contributing enough support, but we have really good news on the SBA, which Martha will bring up a little bit later. But Martha, do you want to tell the board about the request we're going to ask them to approve for additional funds to lend, as well as the letter you got from the SBA with respect to our 2023-2024 grant?
Absolutely. The 2023-2024 grant, we just found out on Sunday, is $275,000. That's $42,000 more than the previous year, and that helps not only with staff salaries and overhead, but it also helps pay for the consultants that work one-on-one with our small business clients. And yeah.
And it was what, 5 years ago? It was only 150. I mean,
right.
So I mean, it's really a great testament to the work that Martha and Lauren, and now Martha and Steve, are doing. But again, it's adding volume. So maybe when you give while you're here and it's accounting, what we're talking about doing with ACH and down home.
Yeah, so our software allows for ACH transactions. It would allow us, if the client agrees, to have us pull the loan payment out of their business account monthly. We've had that module for some time now, and we're working through it. There is quite a bit of work involved, but I think we're close to being able to do that, and being able, certainly we'll be offering it to all clients going forward, and there is a great deal of interest in that. And then we'll figure out what kind of incentive we may need to offer existing clients to get them into that ACH program.
And we're going to move all the payments to either the 1st or the 15th of the month.
Right, and that is going to require, a signature and communication with our existing clients.
And I think, the benefit of that is you're not processing 2 today and 5 tomorrow and 17 the next day.
Right now, it's any day through the month.
Yes, we started, Andy, about 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago. All new loans are either due on the 1st or the 15th, but we've got a slew that we made prior to that time.
And to get people to do ACH, we're talking about a $50 to $100 gift card just to bump them. And when you think about it in terms of the interest on the loan, it's marginal, and many people will take advantage of it. But there are people that we've hesitated, I guess, to do this somewhat in the past. Because with moving the date, there was some discussion, well, we have to change amortization. I said, just give everybody the next, if you're the first, you're on the, if you're anywhere between the 1st and the 14th, you're on the 15th. Just roll people out. And on the flip side, I think that people are starting to ask us. We have people who just, it comes right out of their account, like you pay a electric bill, where we don't have to pull it.
They've
just-
set up automated payments, and in some cases, they're using ACH from their own bank. Yeah.
So, again, we're trying to get a little more efficient, cut down on some of the paper processing. I think, looking out further, we're looking at, we use Key Bill Pay now. It's integrated, but, I would like to see us by the end of the year, be in a, where you're scanning the bill, or the bill is getting scanned automatically when it comes in. And we start to, limit paper. On the expense side, we're $12,000 under expenses, primarily outside consulting fees, employer expense, because we do have a couple of positions that we have budgeted for, and new initiatives and professional fees. So Andy gets the professional fees. Once that audit gets done, we'll wipe out that surplus. So I think we're starting well for the 1st of the year, and I think that we talked about the audit. The other thing I've done now that rates are starting to go up, I've had conversations with Bank of Greene County and Community Bank, and today with Key Bank, where we're looking at getting interest on accounts that no one got interest on for the last 2 years. One bank was very interesting. I'll leave the subjective adjectives out, but when I asked about commercial CDs, he said, well, why don't we just give you 2% on those accounts? And you wouldn't have to tie up your money. But we have $800,000 in the loan fund, the CEDC loan fund, that we can lend. And Martha and I and Steve did a little bit of a calculation. And we're gonna get a $350,000, 3.6% CD. We'll be, I estimate, on an annualized basis, it'll be about $20,000. But because we're starting March 1st, it'll be 10 months and it'll roll over. Lisa is working diligently with all of us on the Paris reporting, as well as with the board. We will have the audit, we'll have a draft audit this week, and we probably will have the final audit at the end of next week, so that it can be reviewed in advance of the March meeting, where it has to be approved, so it can be filed with the authority budget office. Are there any other questions on the treasurer's report? Not?
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Next item would be the portfolio dashboard.
Martha?
Dashboard that you have in your packet is dated 2/15/23. It shows that no clients are 90 days past due. We have one client in the 60-day past due category. That client has 2 loans, but that's very common. It's only one business. And that business also shows up in the 30 days past due column, along with one other client who is now 60 days past due. But we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well with collections, and we're in touch with all of these clients.
Should note that this is a little bit of a change in our procedure for some that maybe weren't here. We thought that if we mentioned names, that we should be in executive session, so this eliminates the names.
So if there's any question from what you've seen, we can arrange to go in an executive session.
And one of the clients, we are hoping to move him out of the SBA loan, do a transfer, and that way he would have 2 CEDC, or actually one. We'll roll it into one CEDC loan. He's been consistently past due, and it does create some headaches with the SBA, as we know, if we get to 90 days past due.
Is that at a dollar level that the board needs to approve?
I don't think it is because it's $20,000.
Okay.
It's under 20. So
Okay, go to the committee.
thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Martha. So can I get a motion to approve the portfolio dashboard?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Carried. And then the loan policy manual.
Okay, the loan policy manual. We made quite a few changes, as you can see. Mostly it was to bring our manual in alignment with our bylaws and with the SBA standard operating procedure. Maybe I'm going to point out a couple of things. On page 9, under credit reports, it says Cavers. We now pull a Cavers report on every client. That will tell us if there are any outstanding federal liens. It's not required by the SBA, but they do recommend it, and so we've made that part of our policy. On that same page, we're changing the repayment number 1 to 7 years. That change was made during COVID, and it was made permanent by the SBA. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I'm happy to answer any questions, but there's another section where we made it clear that the individual applying for a loan has to own a business in either Columbia or Greene County. It was a little vague before.
Any discussion?
Yeah, question, page 5. Composition of the loan committee. It says not less than 5 independent members of, what was the term independent intended to mean?
You want to cover? Thanks, Ann.
Yeah, that's a specific definition that comes from the ABO.
Oh, okay.
And it essentially means, your business is not linked in any fashion to business before the committee.
I see. Okay.
So
Yeah, I have that question.
yeah, Sarah and I last week were going over all the charters and we were talking about that.
Makes sense. Okay.
And-
thank you.
And
It's
it
a
would,
term of art.
and it would also include, if I were a member of the board, as a management person, I wouldn't be able to.
You wouldn't be
vote on it. I wouldn't be independent because I'm recommending it to you.
But everyone we have fits that category of an independent member. So that's good.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just want to thank Martha and Steve and Jessica for their work on this. They did preliminary work reviewing it. They reviewed other similar organizations. And then we had a meeting, the 4 of us met and finalized it for your review and approval. Thank you.
So this needs approval. Can I get a motion?
Motion approved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Loan request. Martha, you're up again.
Okay. The first loan request is from Twin Lakes Ice Company. They're going to be located in Ghent, New York. They're going to sign a lease as soon as they find out whether or not they've been approved. The amount requested is $50,000, $35,000 from CEDC and $15,000 from the SBA microloan program. The term will be 72 months. The interest rate is 5%. They're going to be using the funds to purchase machinery and equipment, specifically a refrigerated truck, and for some working capital. And the collateral will be a lien on that, all business assets entitled to the truck. Any questions?
A dumb one. Where does the water come from?
Well, they are in the Commerce Park.
So
And
the Commerce Park water system,
as far as I know.
and
Mount Ida well, right?
can it handle that?
Well, explain the ice product, please.
Right, so they create clear ice, which apparently is in big demand by people who drink high-end scotches and whiskeys and other things like that. And they make different size ice cubes, larger than you would get out of your refrigerator, for example. So they mostly sell to restaurants and bars in the area. And they need a refrigerated truck. They do go as far north as Lake George, and they're, signing up new clients all the time. They will get into the bulk ice business as well. They plan to for weddings and special events, but they haven't started that now. And yesterday they received their approval from Ag and Markets. Ice is food. It's just food.
So the Commerce Park water system has the capacity to supply.
That is my understanding. Yeah.
And I don't remember, but I think it's called across where behind the south of Stewart's. There's the Mount Ida well, or
Yeah.
Ida Hill well,
Mount Ida.
Mount Ida. And, I think the Commerce Park feeds into that. And when we were looking at bringing the company was going to distill scotch there and put up a hotel and have one of almost like a Cabela's of distilleries. The water was plenty of water, just there was no ability to get rid of the waste product from the manufacturing or distillery.
Thank you.
But that's a good question.
Do they filter it too, or is it clear enough to, or don't you?
I don't know the answer to that.
In my understanding, it's how they freeze it. They freeze it directionally.
Okay.
And somehow that makes it clear, like when you cut ice out of a pond,
Right.
because it freezes down from the top.
Right.
They're freezing it from the bottom up. It gives the same effect.
Right.
I don't know the science behind it, but that's,
This lower ice freezes, the less bubbles and stuff will happen, it'll get clear ice.
yeah, somehow it pushes all the impurities in one direction out.
And I always thought it was the water. Don't drink that.
So this loan needs approval, and it was approved at the loan committee. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And one more.
We have one more. This is an existing business, Car and Bar Corporation of New York. The request is also 50,000, 30,000 from CEDC and 20,000 from the SBA microloan program, 5%, 72 months. The use of funds is to refinance higher interest debt and provide some additional working capital. We will not only have a lien on all business assets, but we will have a second mortgage on the real estate.
What do they do?
It's a restaurant.
What's the fee?
I would call it American casual.
Any discussion? Motion to approve? Second,
Second.
all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Mike, do we want to talk about the resolution? Okay, we are looking to borrow additional funds from the SBA. And the proposed amount is $775,000. We found out in reading the SOP that amounts over $750,000 have 3 years to get those funds on the street. In the past 12 months, we've expended just about all of the $400,000 that we last borrowed. I think $775 will certainly last us for 2 years. Again, we have to be approved by the SBA for that amount, and they may approve a smaller amount, or they may not have the funding to do that, but that's the amount we're going to try for, $775,000 if the board approves.
And what we've worked on, and we're going to refine it, but we've always looked at with the size of the loan fund, what is our sales goal? Considering plug your ears, a 15% default rate, which we've never experienced. And what do we have to put on the street to stay evergreen? In other words, you'll never run out of money to give next year. And if you put all of that on the street in 1 year, you'd be shut down. So, it is, and we are doing 5 to 7 year loans. And Steve helped us find a way to actually do this projected analysis in the software that we have. We used to kind of do it back of the envelope on Excel, but so, and I think, I don't know if everyone was here last month and we can recirculate it, but from 2015 to 2022, we did $4 million in loans, 162 individual loans. We provided technical assistance to 534 businesses. 87 businesses participated in Martha's micro business training program. And we only, out of the 4 million in loans, we've only, in that time period, only had $150,000 in write-offs. So, I think when we're at about 3,050,000, when you combine the two portfolios now, and if we do get, 750, we'll be pushing a portfolio of 4 million, which again means we have to market to people who aren't going to be going to banks. I mean, we want to find that line where we're not perceived or in reality competing with banks, but we're providing funding to the types of businesses that our mission, both of the SBA program and the county loan fund provide. I think we will get to a point where you won't take down any more money, or you'll do it in smaller increments, because I don't know that the demand will be there. And I don't think we want to get into encroaching on businesses. But again, the committee and the board can review that when those opportunities come up. I think with the government funding for the SBA and the omnibus budget bill, it was significantly increased. And when that, we don't know when that will happen again. So that was our thought in going for the larger amount. Usually we've gone for 500, Martha. We usually, and we draw it down in 250.
The last loan request was 400.
Okay, yeah. So it's bold, but they recognize we're bold because they're giving us more technical assistance money too. And so we need to get your approval. We vote on it?
We need a resolution.
We need a resolution.
Just a couple questions, if I may.
Sure.
So once a year, you draw down from the SBA loan fund to replenish the available monies to loan out?
We can borrow money whenever we have a need to borrow money.
Okay.
As long as the SBA has funding. The last 2 times, it's been annually, and it's a fair amount of work. So I'm trying to borrow enough that we might not have to go back to them for 2 years.
So last year was 400,000?
Yes.
And I think there's no balance sheet here, but I think you said you have 800,000 left to loan. Is that
800
only the SBA money or is
No,
that?
800 is in the county loan fund. And I think you're down to 375 or 380 in the tranches that are.
Right, and the SBA won't allow us to request more money until we spend at least 75% of what was in that last amount of 400,000, and we're getting close to scraping the bottom of the barrel. So that's why we're making smaller SBA loans. Instead of doing 25 and 25, we're doing 35 and 15.
Okay. So the amount on the balance sheet from SBA monies is below that 75,
Yes.
well, 25% threshold, and you're replenishing that. Okay.
And I think that, you know, as you look at that, I think they may say, we'll give you 300, we'll give you 600 and ask for more later, but who knows? And the opportunity to get it and not have to go back to them and each time, but we will be in a position where we will meet their criteria. We've had times when we've asked for more and they say, well, you got to spend another 50,000 down before you can get awarded the money.
And are they looking at past performance when they consider your application of the?
Yes, and
Those that
they're
are-
also asking us for loans in the pipeline. They want to see how many we have in the works.
Speaking of that, Martha, have you seen any discernible trend in the amount of applications? Are they increasing, decreasing, staying steady? I just think it as if and when or if we ever went into a recessionary period, are we going to see a slowdown in applications, or maybe conversely, companies are more stressed and might need, you know, the service, you know, what we can provide them. Yeah, I would, and I don't know that there's a right answer to this, but I was just curious of your thoughts about
I
that.
wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
There was one time, and it was several years ago, and it must have been during a recession, when we couldn't get all the money on the street within that 2-year period, and we had to request an extension from the SBA. And they granted us a 6-month extension, and then we were just fine. In December, I felt that things were very slow. Starting January 1, we've been very busy with requests.
Great.
You know, not everyone who comes to us will end up applying for a loan, but we're helping them develop a business plan and go through that process of determining whether they want to get started or expand. We're busy right now.
And part of it, we see with the, when we can help them with the business plan, then they're in a position to go to a bank, where when they first showed up at the bank without the business plan, they were sent back to square one.
Question, at what rate will we borrow this fund?
It's an interesting,
Yeah.
Martha, you explained it. I never understood
You know,
it.
in the SOP, there is a rate. The first year, we pay 0 interest, and they start charging us interest on the 7th day of the 13th month. During the pandemic, we were charged no interest at all in any of our loans. We do expect that to change, but they've been a little bit vague about it. They haven't been charging the amount that they're allowed to charge.
The last,
What is that amount?
It's tied to, do you remember, it is tied to the federal funds rate, one of them.
It's
It's in the FFG.
Did we state it in our?
It's conservative estimate.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
1%.
I think they waived most of the interest during COVID, but prior to COVID, it was like 1.25%.
But they did warn us that the next time we ask for funds, it will probably be above that round.
Yeah.
The rate will be higher.
Good to lock in now.
Any more discussion? Could I get a motion to approve the funding request?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, is a review of the Career Connect program and approval of CEDC's funding. I handed out Dr. Drummer a copy of Kellyanne's flyer that she sent to all of the partners with the update. But if you could just, this is the program that CEDC and the Chamber initiated 6 or 7 years ago. We partnered with the college, and then we're fortunate that the college has taken this on as an initiative with our support. And in the past, we have provided $15,000 of funding for it. And we do have it in the budget that was approved as a new initiative for this year. But if you could just give us a quick overview, and then we can vote on it. I don't think it's controversial, or and it's a great program.
Thank you, Mike, and I thank the board for supporting the.
I think we have to take you off mute.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Am I still on mute?
Maybe she's muted on her now.
Maybe the TV volume.
Hello?
Oh, then, yeah. I think we turned it off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Am I good now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this program has grown, as you know, from a 1-year to a 2-year program. And the exciting piece is that students who sign up in their junior year of high school and continue the program through senior year of high school have the opportunity to enter Columbia Green tuition free for the fall semester. So I think it's, we did have a little bit of a setback during the pandemic, but I know Kellyanne has made some incredible progress, re-engaging students. Right now, we are serving all of the high schools in Columbia and Greene counties, 2 students per high school. We put out a call, I believe probably right around now, for nominations for the incoming junior class. We ask, the high school leadership, to nominate the students, people, who would benefit the most from this program. So it's, I think it's just a really wonderful opportunity for students in our community, and Kellyanne is doing a great job. So I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think it's an excellent program. I take a little exception to the photograph at the top of the flyer here. I don't feel it's representative of our populations here.
We can pass that on and work with them. I'm sure that can be corrected.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
see more variety.
I wish we had more variety, Sarah.
Well, this photo is probably from a stock piece, so there must be other photographs that show a more diverse population. Thanks.
Well, we're working on that. We just launched our new website a couple of weeks ago. We've hired a photographer, probably, starting in spring last year, and we've really improved and expanded our photo morgue. So I will pass that along to Kellyanne. Thank you for the input.
Thanks.
But the picture in here, are these people listed underneath, correct? Are these their initials? So
I'll have to check. I think those, yeah, that could well be.
and I think that's their picture of these people.
Yeah, there's 5 people.
Yeah,
These are the people that are currently in the program.
Yeah.
yeah. But still, when you're wanting to get more people to sign up.
I think this was more of a report than a marketing piece for the program. But I will bring it up to her. And it's a good thing to always be alert to and monitoring. And bringing to people's attention because we just do what we do sometimes.
Right. We work so hard on this board to get diversity also.
Any other comments?
We need a motion.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, doctor. That's my place here. Back to Mike.
Additional housekeeping and oversight issues. Jessica and I have been working with Elena DeFio-Keen, our HR attorney, to review and revise our employee manual, primarily to include issues that have not been, that were not in existence when it was last done 2 years ago. We also took some time to be sure that we have integrated family leave and some of the programs with our policy of salary continuation, so they weren't overlapping or duplicative. We did get the first, we worked with Elena. She did send us back a draft. Jessica and I are going through that. We'll go through it with Elena next week when she's back from vacation. And then we'll sit down and have staff review it and finalize something to bring to the Nominating and Governance Committee in time for the next board meeting. As part of that, we're also looking at, we've begun the process of pulling together job descriptions. And then Jessica will be working with the staff to review those, especially the 3 people who were hired recently. Does what we posted their job to be reflect what they're doing? And then that will enable us to put in place a annual performance review process. And you know, I want to thank Jessica, who comes from a background of larger organizations that was routine, where, you know, here when we said 4 or 5 people, it was every day you get performance review. So we're working on that. Riley is working on the website. I think she'll be in touch with all of you if she hasn't, about reviewing the bio that we have for you. And Jim, thank you for getting that process started by helping to update them. In many cases, we just took them off the internet, and it might not be how you are positioning yourself or marketing yourself. So we'll get those things updated. An additional staff update, the executive committee and the governance and nominating committee, I've discussed with them, and they are recommending that we elect Martha, Vice President of Business Development, and Jessica, Vice President of Economic Development. I think that it's certainly reflective of the scope of their job responsibilities and their experience and expertise. And frankly, it also provides them with additional standing when they're working with people outside the organization and throughout the region. I will point out, Martha had to take the call. Martha may want to have 2 sets of cards because she doesn't want to scare some of the loan clients away that I'm the vice president at a bank. But when she's dealing professionally with the SBA and the county and others, she'll have the option of not being disingenuous, but marketing herself for the audiences that we're working with. But I think, you know, from my perspective, you know, it's the right thing to do. I recommend it, and I'm very grateful to both Martha and Jessica for what they've been doing here. Martha for many years, Jessica for almost a year now.
Okay. So we want to.
Do you need a motion? I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Well, thank you very much. Now that you're a vice president, could you give the Columbia Forward report?
Columbia Forward, very active, working very closely with the chamber. They've had some staff turnover, so they have just hired a new employee who's going to get involved now and take over some of the responsibilities with the Columbia Forward. So bringing her up to speed, it's Carrie Van Buren. I actually feel it's been great. We've been going out and meeting with town supervisors to just really, and we've continued that effort since the beginning, really having meetings with them to understand what their priorities are in their communities, understand sort of a little bit better the business community and that dynamic and their role with the business community, and really just enforce the idea that as through Columbia Forward, we're here as a resource for them. So far, it's been extremely well received. There is still a handful though of supervisors that I haven't been able to schedule time with. So I'm still pushing for that. I plan on going to the meeting this month to really start the Columbia County Board of Supervisors meetings to really push that and really talk about, hey, we're available, meet with us, and we'll, you know, be a resource to you, whatever that.
You've met with most of them.
Most of them, about 70%. So there's still a handful out there. And a lot though have pushed, not pushed, but encouraged us working more closely with their local committees. So that's really been great. And that's really as a result of that, working closely with Germantown Economic Development Committee as a result of the supervisor's direction. And I've mentioned before, we have a Germantown business meetup, which is actually this Thursday at 5 o'clock, I believe. Where we're getting and pulling together the business community to understand. I think that there's been a lot of changes in that community. So really getting all the businesses there together so we can, one, talk about CEDC and the chamber and the resources we provide, but also give them a forum to talk about what are their priorities, what are the things they want to see to improve the business dynamic in Germantown. So we're really looking forward to that. The Germantown Economic Development Committee has been very active.
Most communities have economic development committees.
No,
Yeah,
not really. There's a couple of them. I'm gonna say about maybe 20% between either a committee or an association. The committees usually are supported by the supervisor. The associations are more independent of the government. So between those two, it's not all communities that have them, unfortunately.
Right.
I may go to that. That's where I grew up.
Oh, good. Perfect. I can send you some details. Some other things with the Columbia Forward, working with the New Lebanon supervisor on a priority project with them, was just establishing and attracting a pharmacy to the town of New Lebanon. So that will hopefully get a little bit more traction and some legs over the next couple of weeks, but so far it's looking pretty good. Also, conversations recently with Mike, the Small Business Week is coming up in the end of April. So looking to see what we can do through Columbia Forward to support the small business in the county. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more detail on that in the next couple of months.
It's a national program from the U.S. Chamber, and it's got some, marketing materials. It's got some suggested activities, and because of the nature of what Columbia Forward is intended to do, we kind of thought it would be great to piggyback on it and not have to come up with all the templates ourselves.
Thank you.
One of the things that's been really great is Martha and Jessica and Chris Brown, our housing coordinator, have been communicating and collaborating and attending meetings at times together or calls together so that there's cross pollination amongst our programs when we're out under the Columbia Forward model. Many of the businesses that the chamber is working with are potential loan clients. And certainly the businesses and the elected officials are very concerned about affordable housing. With that, I'm going to jump over workforce and education because we're going to have that committee meeting following this meeting to housing, and ask Chris Brown, who's now been here 6 weeks, to give us an update.
Yeah, thanks, man. So I don't know if you guys can relate, but it's been a lot of meetings since the last time I saw you. In the past 4 weeks, I've sat with all but 2 of the task force / advisory board members. Really, those meetings were a little bit for me just to get a handle on who they were and for them to get a handle on me, but also to get a real audit of the resources that the task force and advisory members each bring. So during the course of those conversations, we figured out what they'd be interested in, and we established 3 committees. So we have an outreach committee, a policy committee, and a pre-development committee. Each of them will have their goals and objectives developed at their individual committee meetings, which will be occurring over the next 3 weeks. So the first one is next week, and the week after, and then the last Wednesday of March will be the full task force meeting. That'll be open to the public. Committee meetings are largely private just because that's, it's a lot of kind of how the sausage gets made. There have been a bunch of conversations that I've had out in the community. Just this past Saturday, I was in Chatham. They're redoing their comp plan and they're really looking at updating some of their affordable housing goals. That really illustrated how important the outreach piece is of what we're doing. We presented for 2 hours about the need for affordable housing, and there are people in the room who are basically the face of affordable housing. And the takeaway, the two big pieces of pushback that we got were the people in Chatham only care about Chatham's problems, and they don't want their crime rates to go up. So there's some education that needs to be done, and that's one of our priorities. But as we develop what that full list is, we'll have a better idea of what the scope of work for each committee will be in the task force at large, and also what the scope of work isn't. I've taken a few phone calls for people looking for help with like Section 8 assistance, things like that. That's very much not what the task force is, but I think that confusion exists because it's not well defined, which is the purpose of the next month's work of meetings. Do you want me to review?
Yeah, we just, we got some, we had some information from the county on home sales over the 2020 and 21. And we contacted Suzette Booty at the county real property tax office and got 2022. And Chris, if you want to just go through the interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll notice that home sales dropped precipitously, the total. That's almost entirely due, with the exception of 2 homes. It's almost entirely due to fewer homes being purchased by people within the county and also people in New York City. But what you don't see on there, which I think is even more indicative of why the sales dropped, is the stock has dropped a lot. There are far fewer single family and 2-family homes available throughout the county than there were before the pandemic started. So some of those numbers are a little more in line with where they were before. You got the New York City inflation. I think you probably want to see a spike like that again unless we have another black swan event. But the depletion of the housing stock from the past 2 years is a really big issue.
And it's interesting how the New York City area purchasers dropped from 285 to 123. But at the same time, people from out of state jumped a little bit, but it's consistent. 64%, 65% of the purchases of the buyer's home address prior to buying that property is Columbia County.
Most people, when they move, tend to move within their own zip code. COVID was a very rare event, but I think you'll see that the New York City numbers will drop because fewer employers are allowing their employees to be fully remote. So there's less of an incentive for some people that were buying second homes or just primary home within the county. That incentive has decreased quite a bit.
Question. There's been, as you know, so much talk about affordable housing in not only Columbia County, but throughout the United States and world. What current projects are underway in Columbia County for affordable housing? Is there any that are shovel ready that are happening, or is it just talk?
No, obviously the 2 Galvin projects that the city IDA approved. One is moving forward towards closing. It's it's more of a that's true affordable housing. The low income housing project that is across the street is waiting to see if they'll get an allocation of the low income housing tax credits on this round of state funding. Redburn Development is still going through the process, planning board process in Greenport to build 150 units that would be available to people who make between $70,000 and $100,000.
Like, did they have that? Did I hear that they have that 75 units initially, then another 75, or is that?
We mean Galvin? They haven't built. They're ready to go. They're in planning board. What they did is they decided to build 3 buildings instead of 150 unit boat. I mean, it looked really disproportionate in the suburban community.
Sure.
And they also felt that that way they manage their risk on construction costs, interest rates, and absorption of the units. So it's before the planning board now, but they have resolved the issues with the assessor. They do have approval from the IDA, but they don't have an agreement on the terms. And as soon as they complete how they're going to phase the project, they'll be back to the IDA.
Great.
We had a gentleman yesterday, Kevin Mulvaney, a local realtor, call us about 2 parcels that he has listed, one in Claverack and one in Livingston. And he is marketing those to developers for affordable housing. That's very early in the process. We do have, for the city IDA, we have initial conversation with a company that wants to acquire 2 existing affordable housing projects in the city and invest $7 million in them to bring them up to current day standards.
Really?
And again, that will probably come to the city IDA next week, or their next meeting, which is May 15th, because they had to move it a week. So, I think 2 things. One, when Chris does get someone coming asking about how to do Section 8, he refers us over to the project management team because, especially in Hudson, where there's water, sewer, gas, electric, and broadband at the same location. And just one caveat, Chris and I talked about this, the 2 observations he presented to you from the Chatham event were not our conclusions, but they were from people in the audience.
Oh, correct. Yes, that was feedback I received.
Yeah, we didn't conclude that they were only interested in themselves.
Chris, I have a question that maybe you'll find out. I'm so glad you're here because you can start answering a lot of questions. What is the decrease in Section 8 housing in the city of Hudson, for example, over the past 7 years? That's growing.
The actual number?
I mean, if you have that, or is it percentages?
It's not a number I have readily available, but I can find it.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that because that's one of the biggest things that people just sold their buildings.
Well, and I mean, we talked about it, on Worth Avenue, the first 2 or 3 buildings in where
Right.
Single family homes converted to 2 family homes over time. Someone came in and bought them for $130,000 plus or minus 5 years ago, put 200,000 in them and sold them, all 3 of them, for 600 grand. And the 2 families that were living there are now where? And I think also you'll see that Supervisor Knott, who's the co-chair of the Housing Task Force, is very interested in programs that will allow people to upgrade and repair their existing homes so that they can stay in them and they won't get into a level of disrepair that they can't afford to stay in them and someone comes in and flips them. And
Is that what the $500,000 grant the city of Hudson just got?
yeah. And, we have, I met with Chairman Morrell and several other county department heads with Senator Hinchey last Friday. She's been very active in the housing arena. Chris is meeting with Assemblymember Barrett this week. On Thursday. She's reached out to find out, what we're up to. So it's all going very well.
Good.
Thanks. Broadband, I think I reported at the last meeting, we did file the FCC challenges. There weren't many based on the definitions. We're continuing to work with the towns of Canaan and New Lebanon to access the USDA funding that then Representative, now Lieutenant Governor Delgado obtained. Austerlitz and Ghent have gone forward with Consolidated and Mid-Hudson on their own, and that work is moving quickly. It should be done by the end of the summer. We did have a inquiry from the Archtop Communications, which bought Germantown Telephone. And we're working with Matt Morrell and the county attorney. They had some ideas as to how they wanted to work with the county. And I had a call yesterday with a representative to let them know that our goal is to fill the donut holes, the 700 or 800 homes that aren't on schedule to be finished. And then if people want to start ratcheting up competition to bring in higher level service or whatever, that's really not what our mission or charge was from the Board of Supervisors. Ours was to get the pay the 100,
Get broadband everywhere.
get 100 service to go by everybody's house. Dave and I did have a call last Friday with the 4 people who are staffing the New York State broadband office. It was a regional call. There were several other counties represented. And when you think about it, that these 4 people are responsible for the entire state, it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
They did say that there wouldn't be any money there wouldn't be any idea of how the money would flow until June or July.
Right. I was also surprised at the level of disorganization from like Albany County. They're nowhere near where we are.
Yeah, I don't want to,
I don't mean to pick on them, but several of the counties are.
I finally just discovered I'm competitive. And and it was amazing. Schenectady, the guy didn't even, I mean, and they acknowledged that we were so far ahead of where they were. And I explained to them that when you only had 30,000 homes, you could spend $60,000 and get it done. If you have 180,000 homes, you don't have $300,000 or $400,000 to do what we did. But we're in really good shape in the broadband office.
We know the address of every single home that doesn't have broadband.
I would like to discuss briefly, any questions on broadband?
Do those people in those houses care?
What's that?
Are they complaining?
No, they don't. That's the, speaking from my Mid-Hudson hat here, when you go into a new area,
Right.
typically your sign-up rate is 20%. And then after a period of about 5 years, every year it'll go up 7% until you reach a peak of about 70 or 80%.
Yeah,
And
I've
that's it,
heard lately
20%.
from people who really,
Never
I
take
can't
it.
get it. I
Never
can't.
take it.
And broadband is Verizon is pushing their fixed wireless now.
Yep.
Our annual meeting, we did hear back on Friday from John Williams' office, the Federal Reserve Chair. And they have a blackout period because of Federal Reserve meetings that would preclude him from coming. I am going to reach out to someone who is related to someone here at the board, but I don't want to put pressure on her until we find out if her schedule will allow a presentation on the county's healthcare environment. But I will talk to you briefly before you leave. Riley and Jessica and I have been working on the sponsorship letters. It's 60 days from today, so we're in countdown mode. We're all set with Kozol's, and this is our at least 7 or 8 for me, and you were doing them years before I got here, so it's pretty straight drill, and we're looking forward to that. After the workforce education meeting, I think the purpose is to tie together how that fits into our strategic plan and present that to the board in March so we can present it to the membership at the annual meeting. I do have 3 quick requests for approval. One, the Board of Supervisors at its meeting in February approved our $450,000 annual service contract. I would like to have a motion to approve Dave signing that so that we can get it to the county for their signature.
Motion to authorize Dave to execute the contract.
Seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you. We also, as you know, provide services to the county for Office of Community Renewal grants where businesses are able to apply to the state through a municipality, in this case, the county, to receive grant money for equipment. We've done it with Hudson Valley Creamery. We did it with Clock Estates Distillery. We did it for Return Brewery across the street. You may recall a year ago, we went ahead with the county to get a $250,000 grant for Pine Hill Farms for emergency farm housing upgrades. That process was approved and they have released the funds. The way the funds work is the state gives the money to the county contracts with CEDC to administer the program, and then we enter into a mirror image contract of the state grant with the farm. And we need to approve the execution of CEDC's contract between the county and CEDC as the subrecipient, and then the contract with CEDC and the farm. And Andy has reviewed those documents and they're conformed to the original grant. Basically, it's a loan, and if you meet the 3 to 5 year requirements, the loan is forgiven. And we've done that now several times. It does put, and we now put it on our books so that we don't get hit with forgiveness of debt. So I need those 2 contracts approved.
Discussion? Motion,
Motion.
second? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried.
And finally, in connection with those applications, we have historically contracted with LaBerge Engineering, primarily because Nancy Costine, who used to work here and handled the grant administration and applications, is now working there. They have asked us to enter into a contract addendum so that it reflects their new professional rates. The staff that we engage with on these contracts are $120 to $160 an hour. What we use them for is the initial application. Once the application is approved, we require the developer to contract with them to do all of the implementation, environmental, and other work. We do get a $16,000 fee on each of these. So, that fee is reduced by whatever we have to pay to get this work done. But it's very technical, and while Jessica has the capability to do it, and I don't have the attention span to do it, Nancy does them every day for counties and municipalities all over the state. So I would ask that we be authorized to renew that contract. And it's a modification of our existing contract. It's not a new contract.
I move. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
Well, I have Mr.
You're
Chairman.
not done.
I'm finished.
Okay. I don't see anything else. Anyone on the board have anything they'd like to bring up?
Yeah, this just got on my radar. Has anybody heard of the Hudson Community Incubator?
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. They do like, I guess, angel investment and
Right.
stuff. That's something that popped up over the last couple of years. So.
We worked with them, or at least we met with them. We also, Barnyard, is it, was the group that's now in Etsy? It's a
Fox.
Barn Fox, it's a, place you can go and co-working space. We've also been working with Dr. Drummer and Spark of Hudson with the building that they're renovating at 4th and Union. And it's and we do have 5 new projects in the last 2 weeks that have come in. So people are getting back to, lumber's come down to a level that people can go back and start getting work done, but we can follow up on them. There is also a Capital District Angels Network. There's also a Mid-Hudson Angels Network to help businesses that have gotten beyond the pre-stage. And we are also members of the New York State Venture Capital Association. So we don't have many people that are at the stage.
Okay, anybody else? I don't see anyone from the public, but if there is,
There was Jackie Salvatore was on the meeting earlier. Our Zoom doesn't show the people without their pictures.
Oh, and Ruth
but-
is in Zoom. Hi, Ruth.
oh, there's,
Oh yeah, Jackie was on there for a
All
little
right.
bit. She left at 9, so.
okay,
We have 7 participants, right, Jessica?
Yeah.
Does it-
all right.
does it
I
show
still
there?
see
I
that.
Yeah.
can't see anybody.
So there's 2 for the
There they
economic
are.
development. There's me,
Who's
Charlie Drummer, Riley, Kat, and Anita.
great? Hi, Anita.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, well,
Hello.
I can see that on my Zoom, but anyway. we'll
Anyone
figure
have
that out.
anything else?
Yeah.
Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Seconded.
Carried. Don't forget, we have a workforce meeting right now.
Thank you.
Everyone stay safe.
Oh, snow.
All right. Full board? Are you on those chains? Yeah.
Don't put those tire chains on those buses.
I've never gotten a,
I think it's be nice for the board.
an ask for a bid. or anything for the college.
Really?
I went there, and out in the heart of their thing, asked me to say, for their,
Yeah.
success stories.